Welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to and watching the first of our Super Bowl preview cruise. It is your host, Brian, the Conscience of Cleveland Donlan, and tonight, everybody, it is all about Fly, Eagles, Fly, as we are going to talk all things Philadelphia Eagles in the build-up to the big dance. And as I say that, it is very much time. It is the most glorious time of the season where we get to see the two top teams in the league. Listen to me say that through gritted teeth. The two top teams in the league duke it out for the ultimate prize. Now, as always, remember, like, subscribe, follow the crew. You can find us on X. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitch, on YouTube, everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you can find the Gridiron Crew. Now, to help me talk about, because I can't talk about the Super Bowl, I'm a Browns fan, I can barely spell Super Bowl. I'm aware it's some fictional contest, apparently, that happens every year. I'm joined right now by two juggernauts of the Philadelphia fan base, and we might even have a special guest dropping in to chat to us later on in the pod as well. First, he is the Gridiron Crew's very own bird of prey. He is Kev. That's about the nicest intro I've ever given you, Kev. I hope you enjoyed that. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Brian. That's by far and away the nicest intro that you've ever given me, so thanks for that. I'm just absolutely buzzing. I can't wait. Sorry, mate. I was just going to say I can't wait for Sunday, and I can't wait to chat about it. I've been dying for this all day.
I'm going to jump in as well, Kev. How you doing, mate? It's good to see you again. I think we've met a couple of times before. I think Brian's got some technical issues. I think I've brought the gremlins to the Gridiron Crew tonight. I must apologise for that. So Tony Brewerton from the British and Irish Eagles, delighted to be joining you guys tonight and talking about some Birds football. It's the big one coming up, Kev. And how are you feeling in general about it?
I'm confident, which I don't know. I think that's taken me by surprise, but I think that's all born from the way our season's gone. When we first started the playoffs, I was just praying for somebody to beat Kansas. I didn't want to play the Chiefs, but now sitting here where we are, for some reason that's just left me, and I'm confident. So, what about you? How are you feeling?
I'm nervous about it. And I think we've done a pod already this week. We've done our big preview podcast on the British and Irish Eagles, and the general feeling is the same as yours, Kev. There's a degree of confidence there. I think there's a favourable matchup, which no doubt when Brian finds his internet settings again, we'll get into the details of all of those things. I think I have just got this one single fear about Sunday, and of course, there's Mahomes, there's Reid, there's Kelsey, there's all of these big names that we're going to be matching up against, which I think we match up well to. But that one fear is, I think the team that we have right now is better than the team that we had 2 years ago when we faced them, and it's better than the team that we had 7 years ago, actually, when we won the Super Bowl. And my huge fear is that with a team that is as good as the one that we have just now, that's playing as well as we are doing just now, if we don't win, then what's it going to take to actually beat the Kansas City Chiefs? And I think that's my biggest fear. I'm delighted to say that Brian's rejoined us. So, Brian,
this is bizarre because it's never my tech that breaks, but evidently my tech decided tonight was the night to take a night off. Yes, thank you very much, gents, and thank you very much for keeping the conversation rolling in my absence. So, as I was about to say, we are joined by Kevin, as I was nice to him, so all of my tech broke, so I'm never going to be nice to Kev ever again. And I am also privileged to be joined by one of the hosts of the British and Irish Eagles podcast. It now seems really ridiculous to introduce him, because I'm very confident he introduced himself a minute ago when my tech broke and I went half here. But we are joined by Tony. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a crystal ball that you've got, because you've predicted exactly what happened when you
I had a sneaky suspicion. Right, what
Really
we are
good.
going to do,
I'm
what we are going to do, guys, is we're
Okay.
going to have no more technical boo-boos. Is what we're going to do. Promises. And we are going to talk our way through a wee bit of reflection on the year that's came before us, and then we are going to get into the meat and potatoes, and we are going to be talking about all things Super Bowl 59. But it has been a hell of a week, well, a hell of a 2 weeks, I should say, because it seems like only yesterday, and it seems like forever ago, that we had Championship weekend, where we got to see your beloved Philadelphia Eagles put the, I'm going to say beloved as well, Washington Commanders. I think they're a little bit of a sweetheart of the league this year, to the sword. And something that myself and Kev were talking about off air before we came on was, for me as a neutral watching that game didn't feel as ludicrously one-sided as it was until maybe middle of the third quarter. It felt like the Commanders were in it most of the way, even though like they clearly weren't. It was clearly an absolute doing. So, guys, Kev, I suppose starting with yourself, mate. What are your big kind of thinking back to Championship weekend? What were your big reflections in the game?
The biggest thing for me, I think this is where, while you were off there, Brian, I was saying that I'm extremely confident going into Sunday, and I think a lot of that came from the championship game because, like we were saying 2 years ago when we reached the Super Bowl, we never hit that gear. We never really blew teams away, and I think it took me by surprise just how comfortable we were in that championship game. So that was a big plus for me, and that's given me a lot of confidence. I just think that everything came together in that game. The offense, the defense, it just all clicked. And so often when you watch the Eagles, it's one or the other. The offense are putting up tons of points, but the defense are letting them score down the other end. Or vice versa, the defense are solid, but the offense kind of struggle to put up points. But it just all seemed to click in that game, and I think there's maybe a few different reasons for that, which we'll probably touch on when we're looking ahead to the Super Bowl and how I feel we're going to win it. But yeah, it was a strangely comfortable watch for me.
What about yourself, Tony? Because it's a bit where it was so weird. Cause I totally get it from Kev's point of view. You're sat watching that from an Eagles fan, from an Eagles point of view. You go ahead and you don't look back, and that was it. And it was just you look back in the game and it was a steamroller. But as I say, for me, when I was watching it live, I just had that weird feeling that the Commanders were really in this forever. But as I say, reality and my reflections are two totally different things right now.
Well, I'm not sure that they are, Brian. And I'm gonna give a humble brag in that I was at the game.
Woo.
So,
yeah, humble brags for you coming, mate.
A minute, what's your day job, Tony? What's your day job?
Yeah, I managed to get over for the Rams game and stayed on for the Commanders game, and I think it was a really strange first half in that there was that 18-play drive to start the first quarter that thankfully our Fangio defence did bend, it didn't break. We only gave up a field goal, and then of course our first offensive play of the game saw Saquon Barkley taking the ball 60 yards to the house, which in terms of limbs flying about at Lincoln Financial Field, I don't think I've ever seen them as boisterous as they were that day. Of course, we then added another touchdown to that, only conceded another field goal, and with the 2 points, we were 14-6 up, approaching the half. Now, step up Jaden Daniels, step up Terry McLaurin, and all of a sudden you're midway through the second half, you're 14-12 up. They've missed a 2-point conversion, and it's beginning to get a bit squeaky bum. I think we spoke about it in our podcast a couple of weeks back there, or a week back after the game. I think there was a momentum shifting play happened in the subsequent Eagles drive straight after the Terry McLaurin touchdown, and that was, we ended up 4th and 5 on the Washington 45-yard line. And to Kev's point, I think we're going to touch on this. I kind of saw the shackles being removed from Jalen Hurts at that moment in time, and standing in the stadium watching the game, and you're about to go for a 4th and 5 on the 45-yard line. I'm convinced that we're just going to try and draw them offside. And he snaps the ball. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Punt it away.
That was some play. It totally took me off guard.
And that's exactly, that there was almost, to the extent that you were worried it was going to suck the ball away from AJ Brown as he was about to catch it. There was that serious sharp intake, that sharp, what the hell are you doing? And of course, Jalen put it straight into AJ Brown's breadbasket. We scored the touchdown a few minutes later, and then I had another one before the half. And as a contest, it was pretty much over by then. But there was that 3 or 4 minute spell where I think without that 4th and 5, the game could have gone in a very different direction. And I think what we saw there are some of the ingredients as to what we need to see on Sunday from Jalen, from AJ Brown, from our big playmakers, but most importantly from Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni, by way of their courage and their bravery and what they're going to do that they didn't do against the Chiefs in 2022.
Yeah, trust and belief, isn't it? You've got to trust 100%. Those players and believe in them, and that's the difference.
It very much is. Now, I'm delighted to say that we have been joined by the one, the only, the Drake. I feel like I'm a WWE presenter when I get to introduce Drake. I'm telling you, there's the in front of it. Coming live from Florida.
From Florida,
6'5", weighing 250 pounds, instant Drake. I don't know if this bout's scheduled for one fall or many. Welcome on, mate. It is a pleasure to have you on again.
Glad to be here again. Yeah, just to jump in what he was saying, a lot of that's going to do with Kellen Moore's play calls. This is such a big thing. It's play call. I think if the Birds have 2 takeaways, it's our game. I feel more confident this year than I did the previous when we played in there. And last year was just a complete cluster F. It was just a fire sale is what it was. But we have the best balance in offense. I mean, there's not many teams where you got the balance of running and passing, and that is, if your team can run the ball, man, that's it. And I'm not worried about Pacheco or Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt on the goal line is going to be tough. He's a tough dude to stop. But I think the defense is definitely up to the test. And seeing BG back in action too, seeing Brandon Graham's last game in the NFL and wearing that green, I think there's gonna be a story to it. If this is scripted, like a lot of people are saying it is, we're doing I can't wait to read the story and watch the movie. I can't wait for it.
We do love the NFL script writers here in the Gridiron Crew,
right?
And it is, and it is, I suppose, a point that you make that's really, really good, because we've seen before the championship game, there was a lot of chat about how Eagles were ground and pounding. That was it. AJ Brown's got time to sit in the sideline and catch up on his book club material. And then AJ Brown comes out and has a really, really good game. And he's a couple of great catches. And it's that little subtle reminder. I am still an elite wide receiver in this league.
Sure.
We still have a lot of weapons all over. And yes, you may well have that one man myth. My personal take for who should be season MVP, Saquon Barkley. Now, with that said, to segue delightfully into the season as we go for our last bit of reflections on this year, what I would like to ask each of these chaps, what has been your big highlight for this season? It can be postseason, it can be regular season. As a fan, what has your moment been as an Eagles fan? And it doesn't need to be, the moment you thought, holy hell, we are actually going to go to the Super Bowl this year. It can just be the moment that made the hairs in the back of your neck stand up most as an Eagles fan.
I got a Christmas ornament. of Saquon jumping over Buddy backwards. That's
I
literally bought the ornaments on my Christmas tree, and everyone thought I was a nut job. I'm a Philly nut job. I just got my 86 jersey. I have 86
Nice.
jerseys. Usually Kevin gets a couple every year, new ones. He got 2 this year.
You got me this one.
Dude, he's doing now what he did not do in New York. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's got the offensive line to open up the holes and the play calling. It's just magical watching him play. Because I'm a huge Penn State fan too. So I used to watch him in college. And to be honest with you, he was even better in college than he was in the pros the first 4 years. But watching Saquon do that, man, that's magical to me. Like, bringing up the hairs, that's it. 100%.
What about yourself, Kev? What was your season highlight then? This is great because Drake's just came in and swiped everyone's easy highlight out from under them in one fell move.
Obviously, that was the one that was at the top of my mind. But I'm just going to go for the first play in the championship game in that case.
Buddy. Yeah. And then the second play too.
This is just going to be a Saquon highlights reel, isn't it?
The man deserves it. Right, Tony, they've taken 2 really nice, easy ones, and it was very cruel of me coming to you last, mate. But somebody's got to bear it, and you've got big, broad shoulders.
Those were the gimmies, Brian. You know, of course, the Riverdale against Jacksonville. I've 37 years watching the NFL. I've never seen anything like it, and God willing, I'm going to be alive for another 37, and I'll still never see it again. It was really pretty remarkable. I think for me, after the first 4 games, going into the bye week 2-2, having just been on the receiving end of an absolute kicking from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and really pondering at that point, you've got a championship side there, but something is just not clicking, and to come back in week 6 and face the Bengals, face the Browns, sorry to remind you of that, Brian, and then kind of march towards the first game in that sequence, which everyone really began to have a question mark over the Eagles and their credentials, which was the game in SoFi Stadium, where there's another Saquon highlight reel that came right at the start of the second half of that when he took one to the house pretty much straight away. But then, you've got your talking heads in the NFL who are saying, well, the Rams aren't that great. They're not that much. And, it'll be next week that the big test will come. And and you're laughing at this one, Brian, because it's your arch nemesis, Mr. Jackson in Baltimore. And we rolled into Baltimore and we took their scalp. And that was a moment where, reflecting was probably the pivotal moment in the season for me, where I began to allow myself just to start looking on hotels.com for the possibility of a trip to New Orleans, and even then at that time I thought it was just a pipe dream, but I think that for me really cemented our credentials as championship contenders. And of course, there was something happened a bit later in the season that we had absolutely no part in that I think was really critical as well, and that was the Commanders going into Detroit and beat Detroit in the divisional matchup, which then led to the championship game being at the Link. And I think that was the real catalyst for that. My goodness, we are going to do this, because I think going into a week past Sunday against the Commanders, I was full of confidence that we were going to turn them over, because it's the Commanders, right? It doesn't matter about Jaden Daniels, doesn't matter about Zach Ertz. It's the Commanders. They're shite. We were always going to do them.
I completely agree with you on that one.
So they're I think I've chosen about 17 different highlights there, Brian, if that's all right.
You've cheated badly, mate. I'm not going to lie to you.
Take your pick in any one of them. But Drake stole mine.
Well, but like you started in the first 4 weeks. Tell me this though, before the bye week, it was sure as hell feeling like the end of last year is what it felt like. And like I was like, it just didn't end, because you didn't, like you said, they had zero identity at that point. Everyone and their mother over here were talking crap. I mean, it was just, they're not the team. Then that's when all the Sirianni talk started. Sirianni's gone. Listen, I was one of those. The play in Philadelphia growing up, I mean, we still own our season tickets, being able to go to so many games and seeing all the real nut job Philly fans. I've seen it in person. we don't put up one loss. It's like you're on the chopping block right away. Like that's just what it is. That's just this.
Philadelphia sports.
Oh, the Philadelphia sports, but those first 4 weeks.
Philadelphia sports, man.
When you said that, man, it just, I was scared in the first 4 weeks. Going to the bye week, I was like, man, we got an early bye week. I wish we were more closer to like week 8 with a bye week to give them a little bit, midway of the season. But I don't know, maybe someone said something. Maybe BG said something in the locker room, or because they say him and Gardner Johnson have got the two big voices in there. But I was scared in the beginning of the year. Thought it was the end.
No, I mean, I wasn't, because in the season preview that we done, I said that it's going to take...
Who had 21 minutes on the bingo card? How long it would take Kev to bring this back up? On you go, mate. Have your moment in the sun.
Is this Kev taking a victory lap on something?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, the early season form didn't worry me, because I said it at the start of the season, we've got 2 new coordinators, totally different offense and defense. The playbooks are all different, so it's going to take time for those players to adapt. And I felt like the only thing that was a slight worry was if Hurts could adapt to Kellen Moore's play calling, if he could or not. But I think for the rest of the team, it was just going to be a matter of time to get used to it and adapt. And I think I said at the time, I think we'll get better as the season goes on, and that's exactly what's happened.
Right back, guys.
Yeah, and I think that is a very big thing. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, so I'm not going to dive too much into this yet. But this idea of peaking at the right time is very much one. Now, guys, I'm sorry, I need to do a bad thing. This is where I need to be unkind, and we need to go for our final leg of our trip down memory lane. This leg takes us to February 13th, 2023. And it is Super Bowl 57. And it is the Philadelphia Eagles squaring off against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And it is something that we've got somebody on the show who was live in attendance at. And I'm not saying that means it was Tony's fault, but I'm not saying it doesn't mean that either. So it's one of these great things of sport where we get little rivalries. I don't think anybody would say that, the Eagles and Chiefs is some really heated rivalry or anything like that. But we have had this dance before. We have seen this happen in a Super Bowl. So thinking back, and we're going to go from here into the Super Bowl. When you think back to that Super Bowl, now Kev, you need to try and remember, because we were together for that Super Bowl, and I think I remember about as much of it as you do, and that's sadly not a great deal. What were your thoughts from Super Bowl 57, though, that you think, when you think back, you go, what happened then? You finished up 38-35 losers to the Chiefs. It was a big dramatic game. And it was, you were well ahead at the half. And then Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes things in the fourth. So you think back to that one. What are your reflections thinking back? Do you have that apprehension that, right, again, we're doing this again? Or are we sat there thinking, no, this time we've got your number? Yeah.
I think I touched on it earlier. I think this time feels different. I'm more confident going into this game than I was going into that. I don't think I truly believed we were going to win that one as much as I hoped. I don't think I believe we would, but I think we are a more rounded team this time. I think we've got a better balance. We're going into this one with the number 1 defense in the league. So I thinking back, I mean, obviously there was the whole drama at the end with the call leading to their game-winning field goal, and that's still a concern because
hang on a minute. Hang on, Eric. Are you trying to tell me, Kev? Sorry, Kevin. Are you trying to tell me that you are concerned the officiating may have a part to play in this game?
Yes.
Oh. I don't know where you're getting away with outrageous sentiments like that.
You heard what Travis Kelce said, right? When the reporters asked him, it was the greatest question, that because Goodell had an issue on it yesterday. He came out in a press conference. Yeah, but it was the reporter asked Kelsey. He goes, "If you had one question to ask us, the reporters, what would it be?" And he goes, "I don't know why you guys are so looking into this whole referee thing with us. Like, I don't." He's like, "I don't get it. That's what my question would be." And then he goes, "What's your answer?" And he goes, "Well, you just said the question. I ain't giving you my answer." So it's like, bro, like, come on now.
Oh, I'm sorry to all the Kansas City Chiefs fans listening. I'm only partially sorry, actually, because some of the calls have been absolutely egregious. Do you know the thing is, and I'll say this, right, and we're not going to talk about KC tonight because this is not about KC. You can all look forward to KC another night. It's not the number of calls. It's the timing and the nature of calls is where it gets better. And that's exactly when we think back to Super Bowl 57. Wasn't the number of calls that Casey got. I would need to go back and look. I don't think there was a big split in the number of penalties between the two teams. But there's penalties and there's penalties. Penalties that are critical and can shape the outcome of the game. And there's giving up a 10-yard penalty on your own 40. Not a big deal. What are we thinking? When we think back time, what are other kind of reflections back on that one? We'll tidy this up, and then I'm going to stop being audible and making you think about bad times, and we're going to be all optimistic again and think about the good times ahead.
You would hope a championship game, like, I mean, over here with the NBA, or like they let them play, unless it's like a blatant pass interference call or roughing the pass, taking the guy and slamming after the ball's out of his hands for 3 seconds. Like, I'm hoping. I think it's going to be a well officiated game. But again, it comes down to Pat Mahomes. It's like, who do you want the ball at the last second of the game when you're playing basketball? It's like LeBron. You know what I mean? Like, he's just insane. But he gets the call, the helmet call, the last one against Buffalo when the two Buffalo guys ran into each other and didn't touch them. Like, you got to say, like, if it does look like they get a lot, like
and on a third or fourth down, it's always third or fourth down, and they get the ball's turning over, and then no, wait a minute, there's a flag thrown. Always.
Well, that's why they're speaking of third and fourth down. They're like, when we were playing the Commanders, just for that fact, they're like, they're not going to stop them on third and fourth down. Jalen Daniels is just ridiculous, and they keep saying the same thing about Pat Mahomes. But this is a completely different defense than it was 2 years ago. Like, it's like they ripped that to pieces. I feel more confident, Kev. I agree with you on that one. With the end result on this one more than it was that one. I love that Super Bowl high with the three-peat. Man, wouldn't that be sweet, though, to beat them, just to take that away from them? And that just makes it even better.
On that parade.
Oh, my God, it makes it even way better. It makes it just
the thing is, you know for a fact that there's truckloads of three-peat T-shirts that have already been printed.
Oh, yeah, they're in the back of everybody's
already ready to roll. You just hope they need to go to a warehouse and incinerate somewhere.
A warehouse fire.
Right, Tony, what about yourself, mate? When you think back to Super Bowl 57, so you had the great fortune to be live and in attendance.
I did.
What were your big kind of thinking back to that and thinking about what's ahead is?
I find it really interesting that the media, on Media Row, you're hearing all these questions of Mahomes and Kelsey and refereeing decisions, and none of that I think is helpful to the game itself. I don't think it's helpful to the Eagles either. And I wish that we could just all focus on what should be another fantastic matchup in New Orleans on Sunday. If I reflect back on February 2023, one of the things, and there's not many occasions that you can say, given a reputation, that you're incredibly proud to be an Eagles fan and part of the Eagles organisation after the slagging we get in the press. But one of the things that really struck me after the Super Bowl in 23 was there were a number of opportunities, and the press were opening doors with those opportunities for Jalen Hurts, for Nick Sirianni, for Jonathan Gannon, to talk about how bad the pitch was, to talk about how bad the holding call on James Bradbury was at the end of the game, that Patrick Mahomes was feigning an injury in his ankle, that there was all of these different opportunities to make excuses as to why we didn't win that game. And I think it was incredibly admirable that, to a man in the organisation, they decided not to take those opportunities. But what they did was they took account for the things that they didn't do right. So Jalen Hurts, he fumbled the ball. He took accountability for the fact he fumbled the ball. And actually, you don't fumble that ball, we win the game. The scoop and score for those 6 points were critical. You look at the punt return, a dreadful kick from Aaron Sipos that was allowed to be returned, to the 5-yard line. What the hell was the special teams doing at that point? And if you begin to look at all these things that actually the Eagles players and the team should have been taking accountability for. So you've got Michael Clay, the special teams coordinator, who his function, his organisation in 2023 was sitting ranked 31 in the league in terms of special teams. We're now ranked number 10, so we've done something right as far as special teams is concerned. You look at the running game and how that's transformed over the course of the 2 intervening years, and the Eagles ran for 115 yards. Of which Jalen Hurts was 70 of them for 3 rushing touchdowns. That burden's not going to be on Jalen this year. The over-under in Saquon Barkley's 112 yards.
Yeah.
So you've got one player, the under-over, that accounted for all of the yards pretty much in the last Super Bowl. You begin to look at the secondary and where James Bradbury, and actually, to be fair in them, you had Marcus Epps, you had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you had Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, you had guys like that who were actually having a very serviceable season. And you look at the upgrade that we now have in that secondary.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Slay, you've got Quinion Mitchell, who, my opinion, should be Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Quinton Mobay.
You've got Zach Bond, who may well be appointed Defensive Player of the Year in the awards later on tonight.
Yeah.
So all over the park, all over the field, in areas in which we maybe struggled and should have taken accountability for, Howie Roseman's gone out and done something about it. And of course, you've got the Fangio scheme being led by Yoda himself. And I think Kev makes a really good point at the bye week. The bye week this season, that just gave us the time. I think Drake said, you're like, geez, I don't want a bye week in week 5. Week 5 bye week is the best thing that could have happened to us this season.
Oh, for sure.
Because it just gave us that time to take stock, to begin to understand, and how on earth Fangio got his scheme working in 6 weeks. That's normally a season or 2 to get that working. So we've obviously got the pieces to work the scheme. And if you look back on 2023, just those dink and dunk yards to Kelsey, to Evans, who was it? Who was the wide receiver?
Oh,
Kadarius Toney.
Tony at that point.
Yeah.
All of these dink and dunks over the middle that just ended up, killing us with 1,000 Andy Reid paper cuts. So the world's changed, and I think Kev is absolutely right to be optimistic this coming weekend. And of course, you temper that with, you're going up against one of the best coaches, if not the best coach of all time, in Andy Reid, arguably the best quarterback that we've ever witnessed in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes, and you've got one of the best defensive minds that we've ever seen in Steve Spagnuolo. So these guys are consistent. We've got our own guys now, though. Well,
before we get launched into talking about how the game is going to be won and lost in New Orleans, for everybody listening, particularly if you are in the Central Belt, you are in the Greater Glasgow area, Keith and the rest of the boys are going to be down in Walkabout in Glasgow in the build-up to the game. So you can get yourself down. They're going to be hosting a quiz between 7 and 8 p.m. if you are there. Get the old pre-drinks in before the game. There will be NFL-related prizes as well. So if you are looking for a place to watch the game, if you are looking for somewhere to warm up before you go to watch the game, get yourself down to Walkabout in Glasgow. Get yourself in with the rest of the guys in the crew and try and win yourself some goodies from the quizzes that we're going to be getting on the go there. Now, you guys have really irritated me, stolen a wee bit of my thunder, because what I was going to say before we start to talk about the Super Bowl, before we start to talk about the game on Sunday, couple of stats, couple of things to think about. So obviously, we have both had incredible seasons. NFL odds has the Chiefs to win by 1.5. if we look at, and this is where I don't know what the bookies are on. If we look at the rankings that we have for both sides, Chiefs offense overall 16th ranked offense, 22nd rush, 14th pass, 15th scoring. Defense 9th overall defense, 8 against the rush, 18 against the pass, 4 against 4th scoring offense. Eagles 8th ranked offense, 2nd highest graded rushing offense. Just think if Jalen Hurts wasn't just a guy, you would be number one. 29th ranked passing offense, 7th ranked scoring, and then that Eagles defense, number 1 ranked defense overall, 10th against the rush, but number 1 against the pass, second, number 2 against number 2 scoring defense. We have got 2 of the best teams in the league. We can sit and we can quibble over exactly who we think is the 1 and 2, but I don't think many people are putting the Chiefs and the Eagles outside the top 5. Anyway, we are going to be blessed to watch them duke it out in New Orleans on Sunday. The question for all 3 of these chaps: what are the Eagles going to do that's going to bring the Lombardi back to Philadelphia? What are the difference makers? Or who are the difference makers going to be? What is going to happen that means this time round it ain't going to be tears of sadness? It'll be tears of joy and Gatorade shivers in Philadelphia. What are the big things going to be that's going to make a difference, guys?
I think it was a defense. I think it's turnovers. Because all these games, we've been getting 2-3 turnovers. Jalen Carter getting in there and rattling up Mahomes. And 2 of the best corners in the game, the rookies, man, Coop and Guantanamo Bay. It's special what they're doing on defense. Don't get me wrong, the offense is great. I'm afraid with one day you got AJ's day, and then one day you got Devontae's day. You mix those guys up. I mean, I get it. They're double teaming one, and then they're not double teaming the other guy. But you think about it, when we get the tight end into the game, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because that's why Andy Reid is such a big. You think about when Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles, and they had Brett Selleck, and they had Lewis, and they had L.J. Smith. He was so much. He was such a script. It was like run, pass it to the tight end, post to the tight end, bomb, or the first play would be a bomb, and then no passing. We can't get away from passing the ball though. If he's running the ball, he's got to mix it up. Because you think about it, at the beginning of the season, the run game was always there, but the pass game was scapped. It looked like Jalen was afraid to be in the pocket in front of one of the best offensive lines in football. He has the time to throw it. It's just dumb decisions, but I think it's turnovers. Turnovers from our defense is what's going to win this game. That's what it is.
Yeah, I think that you kind of stole my thunder on one point there, Drake. I think that the key to this one is going to be more of the same for the championship game. I think it's going to be mixing it up, getting the right balance between the run and the passing game. But where you stole my thunder there, I think since Goddard's been healthy, we've seen that kind of balance, come in more and more. Obviously, we're still running the ball like crazy, but in that game at the weekend there, it showed what having a healthy Dallas Goedert all season, the difference that could have made. So I think that's going to be huge, and I think Goddard's going to be a big player on Sunday.
I'll jump in there, Brian, and a mental note: if I ever get invited back on the podcast and Drake's on, I'm going to have to try and get in front of him in order to make a point, because he steals my thunder every time. Turnovers absolutely is going to be critical. Yeah. We lost the turnover battle in Phoenix. We're 10 turnovers in the postseason at the moment. So we're 6 fumbles up and 4 interceptions up. And interestingly, the Chiefs are 1 down in terms of their turnover differential. So I think the key areas in order to make those turnovers are going to be in that danger zone when you've got Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So just behind the linebackers, just in front of the safeties. And I think the difference makers for us could be the guys that the boys have already mentioned, your Cooper DeJean, your Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, your Zach Bonds, coming in and stealing the ball. And my goodness, how beautiful it would be to see Taylor Swift's head sag in a suite somewhere as our boyfriend gets the ball snatched out of his hands and possibly even run to the house. So turnovers absolutely is going to be key. We talk about the offense. My big concern, and I think it's almost a where do we win the game, but also where could we lose the game. Drake spoke about Jalen holding on to the ball too long at times. And one of the really encouraging things actually in the Commanders game was Jalen threw 20 out of 28 passes, but 4 of those were throwaways. So actually you look at that and he was 20 for 24 in terms of attempts. 4 of them were wise decisions that we've not seen Jalen doing a great deal this season. But my big worry, where we win the game and where we lose the game, I think is in exactly that area where Kellen Moore has called a play that he knows Spagnuolo is going to throw the blitz at him, and Jalen coped particularly well against the blitz in Phoenix. But if Spagnuolo's throwing the blitz, then Kellen is going to have to be calling plays that are going to unfold quickly and allow Jalen to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Otherwise, we're just going to get mauled in that area. Their pass rush is particularly good. You've got your George Karlaftis, you've got your Chris Jones, you've got all of these guys who are penetrating, your core of your offensive line. And no matter how good it is, there's only so long that you can hold it off. And 2.8, 2.93 seconds is going to be too long against some of the looks that Spagnuolo is going to be throwing. So I really hope that Kellen gets his play calling right and he puts Jalen in a position to win and he creates the conditions for Jalen to get the ball out of his hand quickly. And that's really important when it comes to where is Dallas Goedert on the field, where is AJ Brown in a slant, where's Devonta running across at the back of their linebackers and in front of their safety group. So that's where I see us winning the game. But I also see it being where we could lose the game. If Kellen does put the ball in Jalen's hands, which he should be doing given he's showing and given we know how high Jalen's ceiling is, but if he's calling plays that are going to take too long to develop, Jalen's going to get mauled.
I don't see us in a Philly or anything like that.
Nah,
I don't. Yeah, I don't think so either. Sirianni's got balls, but he's not Dougie P.
Here's an interesting question then, because this is something that that I caught from the Chiefs Bills game, which I think is directly comparable to a lot of the stuff that you guys are famous for. The play from Philadelphia of recent years is the infamous tush push. You get to 4. It's like the great line from the season. You know what I mean? Like
Brotherly shove.
Sorry, the brotherly shove. Quite nice.
It's going to be probably the top thing that they're going to talk about with rule changes. That, and I hope to God it's going to be the coach change thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted to say that before you started that, but the coaches, I feel like it's so much different this year about them trying to pick up Kalen Moore than it was when Gannon and them already knew that they took a job. I think that's where the Lions went wrong this year. I felt bad for the Lions because we should have been – I still think we would have beat them in the NFC Championship, even if it was there or not. But this coaching thing's that's got to go. I think this whole, like, with Kalen Moore, where I say it feels different, he knows he's going to get the job, but they're not really throwing it down your throat like they were when we were in 2017. We're like, Gannon's going to Arizona and, whatever. Who was it? It wasn't Ben Johnson. Who was the defensive coordinator? He left too.
I can't remember.
I can't remember his name.
Right.
Gannon was a defensive coordinator. Shane Steichen.
That's it.
Okay.
So to come to the point I was going to make there. So something that came up in the Chiefs Bills game was the Chiefs managed to stop a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1 back-to-back QB draw. It's Josh Allen, and he is not a small human being, and he is known for the Bills convert those plays. That's not a question mark for the Bills to convert that play. Chiefs stopped it multiple times. And as I say, they had one where it was back-to-back, and I think there's a stat that comes with that I can't remember right now. So it's a big deal. And as we said, the brotherly shove has became, and it's been the great kind of almost meme of this season where, like Saquon should be on something like 55,000 touchdowns if Jalen Hurts would stop doing brotherly shoves on the one. Is that something that, we've talked a lot tonight about the importance of play calling, the importance of kind of moving the ball quickly and all the rest of it. We like to talk, and I like to talk a lot about how this game is won and lost in the trenches. And I don't think there's a bigger example of where this game could be won or lost than Philadelphia O-line and that brotherly shove against what has been all year an incredibly good Kansas City D-line, and them trying to stand. They've shown in the biggest of stages so far this year that they can stop an elite rushing quarterback from being able to do his thing effectively. Is that something? How do you guys feel about that as one of the kind of points of the game? Do you think that's going to have an impact, or do you think that you're going to turn around and say, I don't know how we feel about this. Do we turn around and say to Hurts, right, we're not going to lean on that. You're going to be slinging it. We're going to be relying on you to pass more. Do you lean heavily on Saquon? What do you think?
No. I think the key is if we're not going to lean on it, we're still going to look like we're going to lean on it, and we're going to switch it up. So we've actually started doing that a little bit more this season. Like last season, it was just brotherly shove. This season, there have been a few wee tricks to it. Where we've run round the sides or whatever. And if we're not going to go for it, we're going to look like we're going to go for it, and then maybe change it up. But how effective it's going to be against the Chiefs is going to depend a lot on how healthy our O-line is, because we had a few guys banged up in that. I think we'll just keep rolling with it.
I'll come in on that as well, Kevin, and you've just made the point I would have made, and that is that I think we would have changed that up if Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson weren't going to make the game. It's looking like they are going to make the game now. How high they're going to be on ketamine or whatever, I don't know. But interestingly, if you look at the stats on the Bills' brotherly shove, pretty much every single time they run it, Josh Allen was taking a step to the left and trying to run up the A-gap. And they didn't change it at all. And what we are now able to do is go to the A, go to the B. We can change it up and move in any direction. I think there's a significant difference between the Bills and the Eagles, and I don't know the stats on it. I should have maybe done this research. Had I known you were going to ask this question, Brian, I would have. But I think if you take the collective weight and size of the Eagles' offensive line versus the Bills' offensive line, you're going to see quite a significant difference in there. And you've got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts that's squatting 600 pounds with another guy at the back of him pushing him that's also squatting 600 pounds. So their legs are going to be churning like crazy to get over the line.
They're tree trunks.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's just a wee stat scene that I thought it's an interesting conversation.
What you have done there, Brian, and I admire you for doing it, is if in a week's time you're sitting with Kev talking about how the Eagles managed to muck it up multiple times and 4th and 1, and you say, well, I did ask you the question, and you said it was all going to be fine, but look at how clever I am.
Listen, it would be nice because I made some pretty bold predictions about the Eagles this year, and so far, literally none of them have been true. So you can all be grateful.
You keep making them. I can't wait to hear your prediction for Sunday. Then I'm hoping you're going to think the Chiefs are going to win. Then
I had the Browns on 11 wins this year, so it shows what I know. Right, okay, guys. We are going to move to the big questions of the pod. We are going to start to wrap things up and draw it to an end here. There are only 2 questions that I have got left for each of you, and it is the big ones. What is the score going to be on Sunday, and who is going to be your Super Bowl MVP? And we're going to live in a world where this doesn't automatically go to a quarterback. So please don't feel that you need to say a QB.
Can we live in a world that Drake doesn't go first?
Right, Drake, you last.
Dave, you go first.
You've been sniping everybody with great accuracy tonight. It's been brilliant.
I'll go first because I don't think that my MVP prediction is going to be stolen off anybody. I'm going to say the score's going to be 31-24 to the Eagles.
Is that Jumanji?
And I'm going to go for my MVP as Dallas Goedert.
Ooh,
Wow.
that is a hot take.
That is a very hot take.
That is a hot take. I'd throw a 5 on that in the bookies just for the sake of it.
Yeah, right?
Well,
Right.
what I would be throwing on in the bookies is a very similar differential in scores. So the Eagles currently with the bookies are a 1.5 point underdog. I would turn that the other way around, and I'm not going to give a score prediction. I am going to give a prediction at the end that the Eagles win by 5.5 plus.
Eagles by 5.5. Okay.
Eagles by 5.5, and that would get you a handsome just over 2-1 in the bookies at the moment. So,
and who's your Super Bowl MVP going to be, Tony?
well, if we're allowed to go really out there,
yes.
You call him Kevin out there, right?
if-
Dallas Goedert.
okay, so if if you'd asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said if we win the Super Bowl, it will be because of Saquon Barkley. So on the offensive side of the ball, I've changed my mind. And if we do win the Super Bowl, whether it's a QB award or not, I think it's going to be in the hands of Jalen Hurts. So I'm taking Jalen as my MVP. Sorry, that's a bit of a homer pick. However, I do think that the defense are going to play a significant part in this. And I think it's going to be someone random like Reed Blankenship,
Yeah.
or Cooper DeJean, who make 2 phenomenal interceptions or an interception and a forced fumble. So step up 32, step up Reed, and show us what you're made of, mate.
Your
I
first
was tempted to
rookie
say-
defensive MVP ever? It would be
I was-
Cooper DeJean.
I was tempted to say Zach Bond, but yeah.
I'm
Right,
going
Rick. They've been trying to
34-20.
snipe you because you've been sniping all night.
34-20 birds. Saquon with over 150 yards rushing. His $40 bet that I'm placing down will win me $300 on Hard Rock Live. So anybody watching
Excellent.
this, Hard Rock Live, $40 down wins you $300. I just think we're going to run that high off that Washington game, and I think you see when we fast start. It's what the first 10 games we didn't score a touchdown in the first quarter. I think it was even more than 10 games. Am I wrong? I mean, I don't even know. Probably 12 games we didn't score. I think we're going to come in hot and ain't going to stop, just like we did in Washington. 34-20, go Birds.
Nice. Well, I'll chuck mine. I'm going to throw rain in the parade. Not in terms of the Eagles, as I am actually having no dog in this fight. As say, my dog never gets anywhere near this fight. I do think I do genuinely think the Eagles are going to win, though. I just don't think I think your score expectations are wildly optimistic. I think this is going to be an absolute defensive slug match. I don't see either offense really being able to get going, and it's not a slight at either offense. It is actually praise for both defenses. I am going to put this one up for the Eagles, 21-18, and my MVP for this. It feels like a cop out. It really does, but I love the man so much. I am saying it's Saquon. I think that is going to be the vehicle for the Birds offense all night. Is going to be Saquon, and it'll be like we've seen him because you see Saquon, and it's like he is the classic, absolute bell cow running back where he goes, 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 70 yards and a touchdown. oh shit!
Stand-up dude. He's a stand-up guy. He's just a stand-up person.
Yeah. Right,
Brian. Let me jump in. That
Go
that score line of 21-18 just gives me shivers, and it gives me shivers. I'm delighted that you're predicting that we win, but a 21-18 scoreline suggests to me that Jake Elliott is going to have to kick a winning field goal.
Yeah,
that just strikes the fear of God into me.
Yep.
That our whole Super Bowl existence rests in the right leg of Jake Elliott after the season that he's had. And I think the irony of that score prediction could be that he does make the field goal and is the first guy to kick a field goal to win a Super Bowl to be cut at the first given opportunity. And I think he will be cut, sadly. And I love Jake the Make, but he's had an absolutely woeful season, and I hope to goodness that our Super Bowl doesn't depend on him putting 3 points between the sticks, because I'm not convinced he'll make it.
Well,
We love a kicker here in the Gridiron Crew.
Say that again.
We love a kicker here in the Gridiron Crew.
You got to see the New Jersey.
Oh,
wait.
Oh, for God's sake. Right, we are an apolitical podcast, and I'm going to move on from that swiftly. Right, so, with that, we are going to wrap things up tonight, though, guys. So, we've got a sweep. Unsurprisingly, to be fair, I'd be the only person that would ruin the score prediction sweep on the Eagles preview pod. But we do have a sweep back in the Eagles to win. Go Birds. And with that said, remember, we have still got the Kansas City Chiefs. For all the KC fans out there, your preview crew is going to be coming out over the next day or so. Well, we don't have very long. The Super Bowl's on Sunday. So that is coming. Make sure you tune in for that. As I said earlier, we have got the guys who are going to be live in Walkabout in Glasgow. They're going to be there before the game. They're going to be there live streaming from the game. Make sure you get down, join in, have a say. There's NFL prizes to be won. There's quizzes to be won. All of that good stuff's coming your way. And hell, guys, I don't know if you know this, it's Super Bowl weekend. So we've got that to look forward to as well. It has been an absolute pleasure having everybody on. Kev, thank you very much as always for joining me, mate.
Thanks very much, Brian. I'll miss you on Sunday. Look forward to catching up soon.
Right. Tony, thank you very much for joining us, sir, from the British and Irish Eagles.
It's been a pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, guys.
And last but by no means least, the Drake. Thank you very much for joining us from sunny Florida as well, mate.
Hopefully, I'll be at Magic Kingdom watching our boy go down in a float before I fly to Philly for the parade.
Right. Did you know, well, before I go off for one bit, as I didn't mention this at all, because, Tony, you've got a final humble brag that we didn't actually hit on the night, mate. What about you doing at the weekend?
Funnily enough, I'm going to be 6 hours behind where I am just now. I will be in the upper section of the Caesars Superdome with my Eagles regalia on, hopefully watching my team overcome and lay to rest the ghosts of 2023 and winning the Super Bowl. So I am headed to New Orleans. In fact, I have to be up in 4 hours to go and catch a flight from Edinburgh. It's going to be an interesting journey, actually, because I transfer through Dallas. For any Dallas fans that are listening, I did purposefully look at the flight costs and select the one city that I knew there would be no one going to a Super Bowl from that city, and it turns out that was the cheapest flights that I could get. So Dallas truly do suck, but they offer cheap flights to New Orleans.
Aye, well, there's a reason for that. Right, we are very much as all your shirts are green, I'm just as green with envy. I really hope you have a great time, mate. And I will say this for all of the Eagles fans listening. All I'm going to say is that Tony's been to 2 Eagles Super Bowls and you might well lose both of them. I ain't saying he's responsible for it. Just saying you should think about it. Right, and with that, thank you very much. We have been the Gridiron Crew. Remember, like, subscribe. You can follow us. We are on Facebook. We are on X. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. I am sure it is going to be a cracker. And until the next one, I'll see you all then.
Go Birds.
Birds. Go Birds.